Hello, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm your host, Zen Garcia.
The spice extends life. The spice expands space.
I don't know, shine that in your eye.
That's shedding.
Spice is vital to space travel.
Well, music, huh, Brett?
Travel without boundaries. Space travel.
Okay, shalom and hi, everybody. This is Lisa George, your host. I have Noble with me and Brett Lee Thomas, and we are going to be hosting this show again. Justin has it labeled as Radiation Masterclass, which, that encompasses all things as pertaining to the body and the effects of radiation. However, today we are going to be discussing a different topic that has to do with our health. It also kind of hooks in with radiation as well. But I have here with me Brett and Noble. Brett, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Lisa. How are you? And how was your day out there in Hawaii?
It was nice. We just did a few errands. We've just been kind of taking it easy today. We had kind of a late night last night. We were up in the attic clearing stuff out because, nighttime is the best time to do that because it's so hot during the day to get up there.
Wow.
So we were up there till pretty late and just reorganizing things.
Wow.
Yeah, and today just kind of taking it easy because I think we were up till maybe 3 o'clock this morning doing that. How about you, brother? How are you doing over there in Chicago area?
Yeah, you still got your metal, your aluminum screens up there?
Yes, we do actually. Noble he was adjusting some and putting some more shelves and got putting some more foil. He's also lined it with tin foil to keep the effects of radiation as low as possible here in our house, as he's talked to you about before. And
Yes.
I really do notice a huge change, especially in our bedroom, because our bedroom is upstairs, like right below the attic. And I remember before when I would sleep in there before he did all that protection, I noticed I'd wake up and I'd have like weird kind of ringing in my ears and just not really a good night rest. And I think a lot of that is because we do have towers pretty close to our house. So within a mile from our house. So it's kind of like, these are invisible too, right? So you have to do what you can to try to protect yourself. And if you feel a difference, then like we did, that's great.
Yeah, that ringing in the ears, that seems to be a pretty big sign. We have that too here at our place. We get that ringing in the ears, both of us, because I think it's just because of the EMF. A lot of it has to do with that.
Yeah, and before we start talking, I want to put the disclaimer out there real quick. We are not medical professionals here. This information that we are sharing today with everyone is from our own research, and we're going to give you guys resources so you can research this stuff on your own too. For me, researching it on my own is always better than listening to someone's advice and then just taking the advice, because I kind of want to know what's behind all of that, and then everybody's body reacts differently to all this stuff too. So to me, it's very important to do the research for yourself and just make sure that before you start doing a certain protocol, like what we're going to be sharing today, make sure that you're fully aware of all side effects of any type of herbal things that you're going to be taking, and that you kind of talk with people who have already done it too, just to kind of see what they went through.
Mm-hmm. Do your research right on each one, and like Lisa said, there probably wouldn't be a lot of interactions with the different herbs themselves. There could be some, so I would definitely advise to do research, but compared to taking drugs or anything like that, I believe the body just, if it doesn't like a certain herb, it just gets rid of it, a natural source, because it is natural. It's not artificial and made to work a certain way.
Yes, and that's part of what we'll be talking about today too, is in order to get rid of certain like what I would call die-off effects or certain toxins that the herbs will help you get rid of in your body. You have to make sure that, I call them your channels or your lymphs or whatever you want to call it, the ways that your body gets rid of these things that they're open and they're functioning. Because believe me, I tried to do this like 10 years ago when I did not have my channels open and nothing was functioning. I didn't understand how all this worked. I just was trying any little thing that people were saying, here, try this for pain, try this for this. And I tried doing what I'm going to talk about today 10 years ago, and I got so sick. It was horrible. I've never felt like that before, where my entire body just got cold and shaky, and I didn't understand what was going on. But then again, my body was not eliminating things that were being detoxed from my system. So they get just stuck in your body and they have this toxic, I'm not even sure what it's called, but this horrible toxic effect. So I don't want to have anyone have to experience what I went through and then be afraid to try it for 10 years because of that.
You'll have to explain that a little bit, what happened and how you were able to alleviate that a little bit. I'm curious. I'd be interested.
Yeah. I'd like to go into that today. However, Brett, would you mind opening us up in prayer before we talk any further?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Heavenly Father, thank you that you brought us all here again tonight. And thank you that you work your wonders through us, and whether it be through this media channel or other ways to bring us all together and to bounce ideas off each other. And the topics that we discussed tonight will be hopefully helpful to everyone, and we can all work together and get a common understanding of things in your created world that are there, and we may have to watch out for, and just be the best servants of you that we can. Please bless us all tonight, and bless Zen, and hopefully get him back so we can have his wonderful comments and his whole media presence back again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Brett. Yeah, and I really hope Zen will eventually listen to this show, because this is information I was going to present to him, in private, just because I'm like so blown away with this cleanse. I've been doing a cleanse for the past month. Noble and I have actually both been doing it. And I wanted to share a little of what we went through, kind of what motivated me to even start this cleanse, and to share what we've been going through, especially myself. Noble really hasn't had too many side effects, but I think that's also because the way people react to certain cleanses also is based on their level of their immune system. And my immune system has been really weak for like the past 30 years. And if any of you have read my book, 29 Doctors, it's available at Sacred Word Publishing, but it tells my like entire health struggle and how I really did visit at least 29 doctors, probably more by now, but this was as of a couple of years ago, and trying to get healthy. And then it just seemed like just in this past year, there's been some crazy things that happened that really motivated me to want to start out with this, to try this cleanse and to just figure out what else is going on, because I thought that I was actually pretty healthy a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's interesting to me too, because I thought the way you talked and the way you did find solace and healing, I was curious too to why you decided to take this cleanse after you said you were doing so well like a few years ago.
Yes, yeah, and this ties in with Zen too. So Zen, if you're listening, a lot of this is motivated by helping me research your condition and your situation that you had several months ago. And for those of you who don't know, Zen and I did a couple shows actually talking about his decision to stop eating sugar and the huge effect that had on his life and on his ability to function, on his pain level, on everything that you can imagine, on his weight. And he was feeling so much healthier after about 2 months of doing this. Maybe 7 or 8 months ago, he started doing this. And then he and I had quite a few conversations because I had done the same thing and had some great results as well. And he mentioned Candida, that he had read in a doctor's report that he had noticed that they were recommending some type of pharmaceutical for Candida. And he said, well, let me research, and I'm sure that there's herbs and other things I can take that can help this situation now that I know that this is what I've been diagnosed with, because it was just like in the medical notes that he saw this. And then he researched it. Oh, yeah, you got to change your diet. Don't eat sugar. Don't eat foods that turn to sugar, like simple carbohydrates.
Fructose.
Yes, exactly. And glucose, fructose, all of that turns to sugar. So I wanted to take it one step further. And And then also too, a lot of people had questions like, well, how come if Zen was so healthy, what happened to him? That was like a totally different issue. In fact, a lot of us who have been talking and in the health community, I totally believe that just by him cutting out that sugar for those few months, that really boosted his immune system. So he was able to recover from this sepsis that just hit him that has to do with his condition and his paralysis. It's a common thing for Zen to have this sepsis, but not nearly at this degree that it hit him this past time. But he really is praising the Most High because, of course, everyone's prayers and everything for him really brought him through that. I mean, he came close. We almost didn't have him with us anymore. But I just praise the Most High that he is still with us and he's doing better than ever now. He just has to strengthen his voice and he'll be back all with us again. I'm sure of it. He'll be back here hosting shows again. So I noticed everybody say, I really miss Zen, you know, and I do too, believe me. I just offered to fill in at least until he can get his voice going again. And so hopefully he'll be back soon and then we can all congratulate him. And I'm really excited too to hear about his journey through this entire health episode that he's had and things that he saw when he was in the hospital and just interesting. It'd be really interesting to hear it from him.
So Lisa, did you tell everyone out there about, he did send out that email. It was very informative and nice.
Right. Yeah, it was in a newsletter for Sacred Word Publishing. If you guys haven't read that, it's also, I put it up on my Facebook page for if you guys have Facebook, or I think it's also on the Sacred Word Publishing site where they post the newsletters. So you can read about Zen's from his mouth. He can explain everything that happened, and he wants to go into more detail, he said. So I'm looking forward to that. But thanks for reminding me, Brett.
Sure.
So I wanted to take it a step further, and especially with Zen, because we read about so much about how sugar affects the immune system and the level, especially the level of inflammation. So that made me want to research and figure out, okay, well, what actually causes inflammation? Because we hear about it all the time that, okay, food causes it. You know, food causes it. But I was thinking, okay, but if it moves around in the body, there's got to be something in the body that's moving this around. Because since I suffered with endometriosis for so many years, and endometriosis, for those of you who don't know, I wrote about this in my book. It's this condition that doctors cannot explain, basically. There's no cure for it. They treat it as though it were the big C. They prescribed me chemo meds, basically, back when I was 26 and had no idea what was going on. And they said, this is your only chance to not be in pain. And so I did that for 6 months, and now I'm still experiencing side effects from that. But so basically the medical field in the US anyway has no clue what to do for this, except for to cut you open and to continue cutting out these lesions that grow all over the body. Like, most people think endometriosis is only in the women's reproductive parts, but I had it in my brain, on my lung, on my liver, on my kidney, in my pelvic area that wasn't part of the uterus or the ovaries or anything. I had it everywhere. Like, it just seemed like it was spreading like the big C, and it really does mimic it. But I kept thinking, well, what is spreading it? Like, there's got to be something living or something in my body that's carrying it to all these other places. Like, it couldn't just do that. The blood is supposed to be cleansing. So what else is in my body? And so have you ever thought of that with inflammation, Brett?
Yeah, I dated a woman that had endometriosis, and I noticed sometimes she would be in such extreme pain that she would be buckling over and laying on the ground, and I'd be like, I'd be helpless. I'm like, what do I do? And then
Yes.
She says, it'll pass, right? Is this basically how it dealt, right?
Yep, exactly. In fact, I wrote about in my book how my kids were younger and we used to go shopping or something, and we'd be shopping for clothes for school or something, and all of a sudden it would just hit me in the middle of the clothing store. So I'd go down on the ground, and my 2 kids already knew the protocol or the routine. I'd go crawling underneath one of the clothing racks, and I'd have to sit there for like half an hour, and they would both stand outside the clothing rack to make sure nobody bothered me. And that's all I could do. It was so embarrassing. Sometimes I'd be able to make it to my minivan where I could just at least lay down in the back seat for like about half an hour till it passed. But it feels so helpless and out of control, and you never know. I mean, it's torture. You never know when you're going to get hit. You never know when the pain is going to be horrible, like emergency room level type of pain. And I would end up going to the ER at least once a month, sometimes
Ugh.
more than that, just to get morphine because the pain was so severe. I felt like I was dying. And I would go to the ER, and of course they red tagged my file like drug seeker, you know.
Oh
But
no.
I didn't know what else to do. I was just like I was taking a high level of pain meds and it just wasn't cutting it sometimes.
Now, now is it gone in your mind, or is it pretty
Yes.
much it's gone?
Yes, that whole level of pain is gone, which praise to the Most High. The only thing that's kind of been lingering is the fibromyalgia that kind of came along with those treatments I consented to doing. It was, and that was the form of chemo, and that was like so many years ago too, like 30 years ago. I decided to do that, and so it just kind of shows the effects of that on the body. But I truly believe that this protocol has helped me so much because this recent one I just did, the cleanse, just because now I know why inflammation spreads. I know why the endometriosis spreads. I can pray against these horrible things that are living in our bodies. And there's so much in scripture on this too, Brett. Were you
Really?
aware of this? That how many
No.
times? Oh my goodness. Okay, so do you mind if I go a little bit down a rabbit trail here with the scriptures?
Yes, first. Yeah. Let me ask you one quick question. Well, I got it on
Sure,
my
sure.
mind. Is that okay? You got a second?
Of course. No,
Okay.
feel free to interject anytime you want, Brett. And I'd
Okay.
love to hear your research on this too.
Oh, okay. Well, appreciate that. No, seems to be your baby, at least for now. And I'm curious because I actually want to do the same. I want to try that because I think from researching a little that website, that Rogers Hood website, and etc. I think I want to try it. So, uh, first off, but my question to you is real quick: is you said you did. Were any of these conditions that you might have had earlier the result of possibly all these treatments that you were been getting? Because it sounded like what you said might be something up that line. Is that some of
Yes.
the okay?
Well, for sure the chemo treatment. I mean, I hate to even say that word here, but I don't know what else to call it. They were giving me injections for 6 months, once a month, get a major injection, and it basically it's the same treatment that they would give men for prostate cancer. Oh, I'm sorry, I just said the word, the prostate big C. Okay. So it was just kind of like, I kept wondering like, why are they giving me these treatments if it's not the big C? And they're giving the same thing to men that have been diagnosed with the big C. And I'm having horrible, horrible side effects through the entire 6 months. I was super young, and I mean, there was no internet back then either. That was another thing. The doctor gave me a pamphlet saying this is the treatment that I recommend. It's the only one out there for this, and you'll be in less pain. And at that point, I was just like, anything to be in less pain, you know. I didn't even
Yeah.
care. There was no other information. I tried to look up stuff in dictionaries or at the library, and there's nothing on this particular injection they were giving me. So
So did anything like result like a condition that you had from you thinking just going those routes in general? I mean, did you get new things? You developed new things over the years that you had to now battle with?
yes, yeah, and that was fibromyalgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and now that I research fibromyalgia, I can see it's a direct result of what I'm going to be talking about today because
Interesting.
there's no explanation for it either.
Really?
So anyone who's been diagnosed with that, I mean, it's debilitating enough to be able to go on permanent disability with just that diagnosis alone, which kind of tells you about the level of pain that is. And that one moves around too. It moves into your muscles, causing headaches, backaches. I mean, all kinds of
Wow.
weird body aches that seem to move around.
Okay, wow. Well, yeah, we're excited. I'd like to hear those verses that you have because I didn't know there
Okay.
was so many links. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's start with Isaiah chapter 66, verse 24. I just basically did a search on any time that worms are mentioned in the Bible. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about worms. If anybody has done any research on any cleanses of worms, I would love to see that in the chat. And I'm sorry, everybody, I've been talking too much. I haven't been looking in the
No,
chat, but I will now. If
I'm watching.
anybody's,
I'm looking.
oh, you're looking, okay.
Hmm.
Thank you, Brett. So if anyone's done research on anything to do with worms, parasites, whatever you want to call it, maggots, creepy crawlies under the skin, I did a very similar research, like I said, 10 years ago. And I thought, okay, I want to do this cleanse, but there wasn't that much information out there that I could understand as to actually how to do the cleanse. So let's start with Isaiah 66:24. And here's just a reference. It references hurting children and doing horrible things first, and how these wicked people will go into basically to hell, where it says where their worm does not die and their fire is not quenched. And now this verse is repeated again in Mark chapter 9, verse 44. The same type of language where their worm does not die and fire does not quench. So that makes me think, okay, so in hell, we know that there's fire in hell, but there's also worms. And that, to me, that is a huge signal that there's a spiritual link between these worms and demonic entities, between these and just evil illnesses that the enemy loves to try to insert into our flesh using demonic entities and other things. And also it's mentioned in Job too. I mean, if you remember the story of Job, he had quite a few worms on him. There's more information in the Testament of Job about how he would actually talk to these worms, and he'd pick the worm up and talk to it and put it back in a better spot on his body. Job kind of had a sense of humor there, but it's just being covered with these things and living on the garbage pile basically outside the city is where for 7 years is what we get in Job 7 verse 5. It talks about his worms. And also if you read in, let's see, there's a couple. Oh, I'm sorry, Brett, go ahead.
Stop you 1 second. I got a thought. Could this be possibly something that has to do with maybe internal and external torment?
Yes.
Because if you think about it, when you're talking about being down with tortured by fire and flames, etc., that could be significant or a symbolic of external torment. And if you think about the worms too tormenting the person, could that be something relative to an internal torment that the person has?
Oh, that is great insight, Brett. That's why I was so happy to do this show with you guys. Noble will join us shortly. He is taking a little relaxation time here for a second. Okay. he was, like I said, we were up super late last night, but he will be joining us. But no, that's awesome insight, Brett. Thank you so much for saying that, because I totally agree with you.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you mentioned that in other scriptures, other part of the scripture, and it does kind of it may take and may make some sense here when you talk about, oh yeah, the worms are continuing. There is I think Sherry put in Isaiah 66:24, their worms shall not die. Maybe they're in inner conflict and inner torment will not die. And anything that helps to spread this in people could be referred to as a worm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially this other verse in Isaiah. There's two more that I found in Isaiah 14 verse 11, where it's talking about the king of Babylon, and he's prophesying that basically when he goes to hell, that worms will cover you like a blanket. So you imagine like an entire blanket of worms. That just makes me feel
Ugh.
creepy right there. And that you're going to have sheets as maggots underneath you. That just sounds like a horrible, horrible way to spend eternity, doesn't it?
That could be, again, this person would be destined to suffer so much internal torment because of their choices in life, and that'll feel like they're being eaten up by worms inside. I mean, it's just an interesting thought. We also hear, isn't there a great worm that withers away the tree? I think it's for Jonah. Isn't there something that happened?
Yes, that is a good one. I forgot about that one. Thank you, Brett. That's awesome. Do you mind finding the reference for that, and Sherry can stick it in the chat?
I should have Sherry do it. Sherry, can you do it?
Okay, maybe Sherry can find it. Sherry's so good at finding these verses. Sherry, if you can do that, that would be awesome to find the reference for Jonah and that worm that ate the tree, or that made the tree die. There's another one, Isaiah chapter 51 verse 8, that worms will devour them like wool, and it's speaking of the unrighteous. And so there's a lot of this language in the Bible that I never really noticed before. I mean, I noticed that worm does not die and fire does not quench, just because in Mark it's repeated over and over. So they wanted to really make sure that we got that point, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, there you go again. It's torment.
Yeah. And then I looked it up in Hebrew. Worm in Hebrew is tola or tolea. Maggot is rimma. Those were from the Isaiah passages. I looked those up in Strong's just to see if there was any other reference to those. And also in the Testament of Solomon, it mentions this mighty worm demon that is shown to Solomon by Asmodeus. I'm not sure if have you read that book before, Brett? Testament of Solomon?
I think I have it. I didn't read the entire book, but I think I used it. Yes.
Yeah, it's like one of the most major books for like spiritual warfare. It really makes that passage in that Paul writes about that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and
Principalities.
powers. And yeah, it tells about who all those principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness, of who all those entities are and what their basically what their job title is. And
Gives
so
them
one of them,
names.
well, one of them is this worm called Shamir. It was a mighty worm demon that was shown to Solomon by Asmodeus, who is said to be his father, which is kind of creepy to me.
Ugh.
And it's this particular worm because in this text, the Testament of Solomon, Solomon is summoning demons and their fallen angels who they're thwarted by, which is like the language of the text, to help him build the temple, which I think is a very interesting. So this particular worm could supposedly cut stone silently, because that was part of the instructions from the Most High to build the temple, is there couldn't be any noise of sawing or hammering or anything anywhere near the temple. And so that would be really helpful to have this particular demon or this worm that could cut the stone very silently and could do it right there in the temple grounds.
Yeah, that is interesting. Now, one curious thought that I have is about that whole Solomon deal. Do you think I'm leaning towards more of that the angels actually gave Solomon the keys to force these demons to actually do positive work for him and for the temple? That would be my guess. I don't think he actually, at least at this moment, just got, corrupted and started summoning demons. I could be wrong, but that's just my first take on it. Because it could have been a better time. What do you think?
No. That's really good insight, and I felt like that at first too. But the more that I studied this text and read it over, he utilizes a ring. There's a particular ring, and there's even a drawing of this ring in the text. It looks kind of like a hexagram that's on there, the Star of Remphan, basically, and it's given to him by the angel Michael, and I'm thinking that because Solomon had wisdom over everything on earth and under the earth, everything, he could speak with the animals. He could that would include the spiritual realm too, in my mind. What are your thoughts?
That's interesting. You say under the earth, because if we think about it, that would be where the darkness of the deep would be. If we think of flat earth or anything like this, how we would think that the earth could possibly be set up is when you say under the earth, that could easily mean that he had power over anything that was fallen and anything spiritual that was underneath the earth.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you think about where we find like earthworms. Where do we find regular worms? They're in the earth, right? They're in the soil.
And one thing I notice about a lot of these things, because you heard about Lord of the Flies, okay, Beelzebub, etc. You think about what flies mean, okay? Because it's either, I've always kind of taught this and always kind of just thought this, especially, is that it's either one way or the other, okay? It's either you're heading towards something of God or heavenly or something, or you're heading the opposite way, okay? So if you're heading towards something the opposite, actually you're heading down. You're heading of this earth. You're heading below the earth. So, what you're talking about now seems to make a lot of sense, that you talk about the flies. Okay, what do flies like to do? How do they like to? What do they like to run to when, and let's say, feces, etc. I mean, it's the things that they seem to crave, which are the most worthless things. And I think it has more of a spiritual take on it. And you think about the worms too, as you're talking about that. The worms hide under the ground. They're low. They're probably do a lot of things, as I'm sure, Lisa, you're going to mention about to human bodies and other bodies that aren't very nice, right? I mean, it's very degenerative, and they hurt people. They don't help people. It's like a symbol of something that points us towards the other side.
Yeah, and then on that same lines, I was thinking of, okay, so if they hurt people, would they, and that's basically their only, I mean, they're mentioned in scripture as being a part of death, basically, and hell. Would the Most High actually created these worms to hurt us? I mean, to me, it doesn't really make any sense. And that's where I started getting the tie-ins with demonic entities. That another name for these worms that are in our bodies are parasites. People might be a little more familiar with that. But it seems like they would be more of a Nephilim type of entity, similar, right along the same lines with demons. We know that those are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. This could be another type that the Nephilim maybe even combine DNA to produce, because we know that they hate us. Like you talk about it in your books, that that the serpent is a type of a worm, if you want to get technical there, I guess, and that he was sentenced to eat dust the rest of his life, and that's basically mankind, that we turn to dust, right?
Mhm. And to eat it, to devour it, they crave worthlessness, and they crave death. They crave
Right.
things that they get better, and we all need to eat, of course, and we all need to kind of do that. But it's kind of, sometimes it's kind of the way it seems maybe a worm is giving the credit to function. Is this almost like they live off people, and it's like a vampire, if you think about it in a certain way.
Oh,
And
totally.
vampires, of course, are spiritual, and they suck the life out of people. And kind of probably what you're going to be talking about, Lisa, is exactly that.
Oh, totally. And these things, I didn't even realize that it was like a huge deal. And we're always taught, because I still have some of the things in the back of my mind that I learned about the health system, and some of the things that kind of overlap, because we were taught so wrong about pretty much everything to do with health, and how certain diseases are cured, and what's the cause of all these diseases that they can't seem to find a cure for. And it seems like these guys are behind quite a bit of it. I mean, it's so shocking when you discover that, these worms, that there's things that the Most High has created for, he's created every herb of the field as healing. And there's certain herbs of the field, and those are, we'll be talking about too, are, and there, some of the people in the chat are already mentioning it. Ironically, one is called wormwood. And so he definitely created these things from these herbs of the field to be able to help us combat these horrible parasites that are living in our bodies. And we're taught with Western medicine that it's like, okay, to me, it didn't make it in any sense after I realized what they've been telling us, that, oh yeah, well, we're in a developed country, we're in the United States, that we don't get parasites. They don't come across the border from Mexico. They're like, like,
None are in the grass out here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, we're like a clean country. We're a developed nation. I mean, it's so prideful, right, to say that. All these other countries, they have to do these routine cleanses, because, like, Mexico, they are, if anyone's from Mexico in the chat, I'd love to hear this, or other countries where this is required. In order for children to attend school in Mexico and in tons of countries in South America and Latin America, Korea, the Philippines, Japan, they have to show this card twice a year that they've done a worm cleanse. And to me, that's like, okay, why are they doing this? And we've never done this in our lives. Like, I'd never done a worm cleanse in my entire life up until, well, I tried it 10 years ago for a few days, but like a thorough cleanse up until just now. And so that's how many, over 50 years of having worms and not realizing all the junk they're doing in my body.
Yeah, I bet you, I'll just take a guess here to see if I'm right, but I bet you tried it for a couple days, about, what you said, 20 years ago?
10 years ago.
10 years ago, and you didn't
2014.
see any results, or else it was a little uncomfortable and you just quit.
Well, it was the latter. It was not even just, it was horribly uncomfortable. And I'm going to go over why, because now I figured out why that was. And it's just too bad, because I think this happens to a lot of people. I'm in a couple of different support groups on Facebook that for parasite cleansing. And that's a really common thing for people to just go into this with not knowing how to prepare their bodies beforehand, what to expect, and how often, and the manner that you take these herbs. And they get tired of it after a few days, because it is really, really rough if your body's not prepared for it. So now I went into it this time, it was much better. Still had some side effects, but not nearly like, I felt like literally like 10 years ago, I felt like I was going to die in the first 3 days.
I'm sure you'll interpret this exactly what I'm saying a lot better, and you'll tell us a lot more about it. But I think a lot of people, when they first try something like this, they get a little scared, like myself, is if you see changes, and especially if you start to feel uncomfortable. I think that's mainly because of like those die-off symptoms and such, and you're starting to feel, oh, what's wrong with me? Maybe this is hurting me, right? But I'm sure you're going to tell us that that's not quite often that's not necessarily means that it's hurting you. It's just that actually these things are dying off and changes are taking place in your body that are positive.
Yes, yes, exactly. I also wanted to, I'm looking at the chat here, and yeah, so many people know about this stuff already. The black walnut hull, that's another type of the tincture, another herb that's helpful. Cloves. I'm going to go down the whole 9 yards of all of the different ones that I've been taking eventually here. But first, I wanted to say too, there's a question earlier about what do worms eat, and some of the research I've done, it's kind of ironic, but well, of course, they love to eat sugar and most of the food that we crave that's not good for us, but they also eat sulfur, which I thought was kind of interesting. There's certain types of parasites that crave and eat sulfur. So that would make sense if that's that saying in Isaiah where their worm does not die and their fire is not quenched. Well,
Oh, wow.
sulfur is like brimstone, and so
Yeah,
there's particular worms that like to eat that, I guess. And
that's
also
interesting.
too, there's a I don't know how many people have seen this or if you've heard of this, Brett, but there is a video that came out, I believe, on Netflix called "The Monsters Inside of Us." Have you heard of that?
There's a TV show, Monsters Inside. Yeah, I've heard that.
That's
I've
what,
heard that.
okay, because I haven't watched that personally, but a lot of people that I've seen in these support groups are recommending to watch that. But from what I've read, like I wish I should have watched it just to have like a review of it. But that might be something you want to take a look at. But from what people are saying in the groups I belong to, that it doesn't cover every aspect of how to get rid of these worms, because the monsters they're referring to are like the parasites that live in us. And also, too, I think you referenced this earlier, Brett, but Dante's Inferno, it calls the devil himself the great worm. So it's kind of an interesting reference, too.
Interesting. Right. One that torments. There you go. Torments the inner soul of a person.
Yeah, exactly. So I started researching this heavily. Well, like I said, 10 years ago, I'm just going to talk about a little bit about what happened there 10 years ago with me, because I did it at the wrong time. I did not prepare my body. And when I was trying this, Noble and I were on a cruise. Total wrong time to do any It was
The buffet
ridiculous.
off limits.
Oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. It was the dumbest thing. I should have researched it more. I just was like, oh, it's just a herb. People think, yeah, these herbs are not that strong. You can just do it anytime. It'll be fine, and it's real mild. But these herbs are not mild, just so that you guys know. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna get this tincture. There's one at our local health food store. It was actually called Parasite, and they mix it like on site at the health food store, and they put together the black walnut hull, wormwood, and clove. It's a tincture. So I brought it along with us on the cruise, and now I know in order to do a cleanse to prep energy, I felt so much better. I was like, I can think clearly. I can speak without like stumbling over my words like I was doing before. The pain in my upper abdomen, I was having some digestive type of pain, and not endometriosis, but like digestive kind of things. That was gone. I didn't have this kind of underlying nausea that I've had since May off and on. And now I know that that has got to be attributed to these worms, because it's just all these symptoms that I hadn't had like for a couple of years. Everything kind of just started back up this year. So that's why it looks like we're still buffering, Brett. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I did hit refresh and I don't see anything. I think
Oh,
Justin's working on it, but
yeah, look
um
in the chat. Zen made a comment in there. It's Justin under Zen's name. He said, sorry, I think my computer's on its way out the door. I think he's got to reset some things on his computer, and then we'll be back up, hopefully.
yeah.
But okay.
Just a
Oh,
quick.
it looks like we're taking a
Oh,
short break.
okay.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message. Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? You enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crip Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Cryptless, I think. Welcome to the crypt.
Mountain High Time, 2 hours of an organization to the madness, discussing the ever-changing dynamics of being both physically and mentally prepared for a plethora of possible outcomes to our future and present. A look into the latest technologies, new scientific discoveries, and how they might be used in connection to the human domain and controlling it, ancient cultures and places. Be warned. This is an opinionated look through headlines, guests that are not afraid to question the narrative, a little bit of crazy ramblings of a stoner conspiracy factus that pushes constitutional concepts. The place and the time are the same, another dimension we call Mountain High Time. Saturdays 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain High Time, right here on Revolution.radio, where information never sleeps and truth breaks the spell.
If you're sick of the lies and ready to know thyself, to love thyself, well then tune in to the Revolution with your hosts, Amy and John Paul, where we speak all about truth, love, and freedom every Tuesday night, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A, right here on Revolution Radio. And remember, only you can free your mind control. We are revolutionary.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Ravens. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. All right. Thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Hello, shalom everyone. Welcome back from break. Sorry about that buffering that was going on right before the break. We're just so grateful that you guys hung in there with us, and hopefully you can hear me now. And we have Brett Thomas with us. Noble is here. Brett, are you there?
I'm here. And the most important guy, Noble, are you here?
I am back.
All right. We missed you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Last night, or I should say early this morning, Lisa mentioned that we went to bed late. I was in the attic, EMF proofing our attic. So
Even more, huh? That's great.
yeah, not done. A lot of work. So do it. I just try to get it done a little at a time.
Yeah, we got to have
So-
another EMF tuned show because we got a lot to talk about still with that. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
We'll have to have one of those in the future pretty soon.
Yeah, we definitely will.
Yeah,
All
it
right,
sounds
Lisa,
good.
I would really love to hear this second one that you did. I think it'd be very interesting because you say you got fantastic results.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to go down this list. These are this section. You can find all this information, this website that I've done the majority of my research because it's really comprehensive. It covers everything from questions that you have. It has testimonies from people that have done this cleanse. It has videos of the founder that just put together these amazing herbs. Her name is Kim Rogers. The website is called Rogers Hood. That's all one word because her last name is Rogers and she lives in a town called Hood, Washington. So they call it rogershood.com. Maybe Sherry or Tammy, you can stick that in the chat so people can go and research for themselves. They have ebooks on there. It's extremely comprehensive site because Kim Rogers is a former medical practitioner with Western medicine. And it's kind of ironic because she was working in the medical field for like 25 years, but during that entire time, she had stage 4 endometriosis, just like myself. And so in the past 5 years, she was also a lecturer with DeVry University. She taught 25 different classes online, extremely knowledgeable about Western medicine. But in the course of all that, she said her testimony is she had to have 13 surgeries for endometriosis. She was in pain like I was. She developed fibromyalgia. She took that same protocol injection that I did when I was 26 years old, and she had the same. You can kind of it's kind of like a cookie cutter type of thing that the medical field has created with this endometriosis because no, the doctors just don't know what to do. Like the gynecologists have no idea how to treat this. You go to a regular doctor and they just send you to a pain doctor. And so after her 13th surgery, and she's in the medical field, so these are like her friends at least doing her surgeries. They told her, they said, Kim, you can't do any more surgery. This is the end of it for you. There's nothing else that we can do. You can gonna have to just stay home. And she wasn't able to work anymore because her pain level was so strong, so high. She and her husband moved to Washington. He was building a log cabin. They sold all of their stuff because she just felt like I'm going to be ending my life here. Like this is where I'm going to live out my last days. And she's younger than I am. She's like in her late 40s. So I read that and I'm just sad because I know what that feeling is like when Noble was my caregiver 24/7. I was in bed the majority of the time. And just to have that feeling like there's no solution. I mean, crying out to the Most High, trying to change my diet and just feeling like things will work for a little while and then not after a while. So I was excited to hear her testimony, and that motivated me to research more. And of course, with her level of in the medical field, she's got really good information out there in ebooks that are very detailed. And that will describe all 8 different types of parasites. There's photos that people have sent in of the parasites they've expelled. In fact, there's 2 ebooks that are over 300 pages each, just of pictures. Oh. So if you want to be grossed out, but at the same time, it's helpful to identify what is coming out of you so that oh, okay, that's a ropeworm, or okay, no, that's a pinworm.
That is informative though, because you get to kind of get an idea. Oh, okay, where did I get that, or what is that? Where might have that come from?
Yeah, exactly. So at first, I was not wanting to look. I was just like, this is so gross. I can't even bring myself to look. But then I kind of got curious. And I just was like, okay, let me look. And Noble would joke around because he'd see me in the morning in the bathroom, and he'd be like, "Well, are you watching TV in there, or what are you doing?" Watching TV in the toilet. It was just because I was kind of curious. And then especially after the first 48 hours, when I got the burst of energy, I started feeling so much better. Then I happened to, this is really gross, and I'm sorry I'm sharing a little bit overshare here, but I looked in the toilet the fourth morning of the cleanse, and all I saw was white. Everything in there was white. It was just so gross. It just looked like solid rice, white rice in the toilet. And
really?
it was all pinworms. It was just so gross. And
man.
they were dead. It was like hundreds of carcasses.
Really?
And at that point, yes. At that point, I realized that diatomaceous earth is not working to kill these guys because I did that for 5 years and I never saw anything that looked like that. So I was horrified to say the least. And I'm sorry this is an overshare, but that's something that when you do this cleanse that you can maybe expect, because especially if you have some issues with your immune system. Now, Noble, he's been doing the cleanse with me, but he doesn't want to look. So we don't know exactly what's coming out of him, but
Yeah, you gotta look,
I
Noble.
do look.
You gotta
It's all,
look.
it all looks like poop to me.
Yeah,
but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go over the common symptoms that you might have worms and you might want to do this cleanse. The cleanse is called the Fortify Kit. It is on that Rogers Hood website and you can order it right through there. It's $100 for the kit. It comes with 3 different herbal tinctures that they've mixed and also a container of the activated charcoal that's also mixed with some coconut oil and some cinnamon. So they call it Cinnabind, like it's a binder that's in there, and then instructions, of course. And if you'd like to order this and you want to get a discount, I've also become like an affiliate for their company just because I'm super excited with the results I've had so far. I want my friends to do this because I'm like, okay, this might be life-changing for you. For Noble, for some people, it doesn't seem to have such a huge effect on, but Noble didn't have any issues with his immune system or anything before. He doesn't really have any health issues. He gets some pains in his knees, but that's from some surgery that he had about 20 years ago. So it's it's different than if you have like immune system type of things going on. So we're going to see that in this list I'm going to read. All right, so this is a list that's on that website. And if you'd like to get a discount too, let me give you the code. You can enter Hebrew 10 for 10% discount off of any of their products from the rogershood.com website. So maybe Sherry, you could stick that in the chat as well. It's all caps Hebrew 10. So Hebrew and the number 10 for a 10% discount. Okay, so these are issues. And this is from their website. It says spotting the signs of parasitic inhabitants. Worms and other parasites can be stealthy invaders, often causing a range of symptoms that can be mistaken for other health issues. Here's a checklist to help you determine if parasites might be your uninvited guests. Okay, so this is the list. Number 1, digestive distress. Do you have constipation, diarrhea, persistent gas, bloating, IBS, SIBO, or leaky gut syndrome? Number 2, nutritional deficiencies. Do you have persistent anemia, or like what I used to have when I stand up too fast, I feel dizzy? Restless nights. Do you have insomnia? Do you grind your teeth, or do you clench your teeth when you're sleeping? And just so you know, I have all these things on this list before I did this cleanse. Unexplained itchiness. Do you have an itchy nose, itchy ears, or itchy bottom? Mental brain fog. Did you have difficulty concentrating or persistent brain fog? That's another symptom of fibromyalgia too. Do you have unusual cravings? Do you have an extreme desire for sweets or sudden food sensitivities? Okay, and that was one that I was teasing Noble that maybe that's one of his symptoms because he's craving sweets. But I especially would have it at like weird hours at 2 a.m. I'd wake up and want to go eat cookies or something, or ice cream or something crazy. It's just these really weird cravings that you don't understand. Appetite changes. Do you have increase or decrease in appetite that's not linked to any activity level? So in other words, if you're working out and everything, that's normal that you're going to get hungry. But if you're not doing anything and you still just get hungry all of a sudden and out of the blue, and that's probably a sign. Do you have weight fluctuations? Do you have unexplained weight loss or gain? And then for those of you that have heard my testimony when I was telling Zen, I'm about 5'9", and 2 years ago I dropped down to 95 pounds. And I had no idea what was going on. I just thought I'm still eating, I was doing intermittent fasting, but I was still eating, and that just weird weight loss, because my normal weight is about 130. So to drop down 40 pounds and just feel so weak, that was just a very strange thing. Persistent fatigue. Do you feel tired, lethargic, or apathetic without a clear reason? Emotional instability. This is kind of along the lines you were talking about, Brett. Unexpected anxiety, depression, or just nervousness. And I had that too, where I just felt like, why do I feel so hyper and just like tense all the time? And I'm usually a really laid back kind of person. Skin concerns, unresolved eczema, psoriasis, hives, or rashes. And I think that also goes with pimples or like under the skin, like a boil. I don't know if you've ever seen those or had those before. It also goes along with Morgellons, if anyone's aware what that is. That's I was actually diagnosed with that about 25 years ago.
Really?
From a natural, yeah, the doctors kept telling me I had shingles, but I know no blood test came up with anything. And I went to a natural practitioner and they said, no, this is Morgellons. It's basically, I had like open wounds that look like, it kind of looks like mosquito bites that you scratch open, but they're just wounds and they will not heal. And they're this tiny little like fuzz comes out of them, and they're
Yeah, like
just
a
really
pus.
itchy. Yeah, have you seen these, Brett?
I've researched, yes, about Morgellons. It's kind of an interesting source that they said they come from, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if we can talk about that too much, but it has to do with the air and what they're
Yeah, it
doing
comes in the air.
yeah, what they're doing to spray us basically. But yeah, I had those covering my arms and my legs. It looked horrible, like hundreds of these open little sores all over my arms, and I have the scars to prove it because they close up and then they just dry up and then they fall off. It's just they're horrible. Okay, so that's another part of the skin. And then recurrent infections. Do you have a yeast infection or UTI? And that's something that Zen shared that he had for about 10 years. And I did as well. I had an ongoing yeast infection for about 10 years. Um, intimacy issues, sexual health dysfunction, and low libido. And usually that's because you're just so tired, just exhausted all the time. Oral health, if you have easy gum bleeding or other dental issues with your gums, um, muscle and joint pain, that kind of goes along with fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, other things that are just pain in your joints and not really explained. And then the last one is respiratory problems, difficulty breathing, or shortness of breath. So those are all the symptoms that they list on the website. Do any of those sound familiar, Brett, or something you'd like
Yeah,
to?
many of them, like the skin thing. I get some kind of eczema type of skin stuff that just doesn't seem to go away. And one thing that I do, I get a little bit of coughing in the morning of just a little bit of coughing, like almost like a little bit of, sniffles that you cough up. And could that be something that has to do with that possibly? Just, I think,
I hate to say it, but yes, that
really?
I had that symptom too, and this is so gross to think about, but I think it's them coming up your throat, waiting for something you're going to eat.
Not
I know, because I used to have that. I had that before too, before I did this cleanse, and I even felt like my voice was going. Like at times, I was having a really hard time talking, and then also to kind of tie this in with something that a lot of our listeners are aware that happened to me in February. I never had this happen to me before in my life, where I got up in the middle of the night to just go and use the restroom. It was maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Noble was still awake, sitting in bed watching me. I got up, went into use the restroom, and the next thing I knew, he was lifting me up and carrying me onto the bed. I passed out in the bathroom. I landed on the edge of the tub and I broke 2 ribs doing this. And I don't remember any of this. Like I was totally knocked out. And I woke up, and then of course we had to go to get x-rays and all kinds of horrible things. And then it took me about 6 months to recover from that. But that was just so strange. Nobody could explain it. Like none of the doctors had any explanation. But I've read about other people who have had these worms living in their spine, and they live in your brain as well. And if they're like maximized, they can actually cause dizziness and fainting. And so
Wow.
I'm almost 100% positive that was a case of having these worms going into my brain and causing this instability when I was standing up. And then another thing happened that a few months after that, in May, I was supposed to do a show with Zen, and I could not stop throwing up. I woke up and I was so nauseous. It seemed like anything I tried to drink or eat, it would just come right back up. And I was thinking, what is wrong with me? Like, why have so much nausea? I wasn't feeling sick in any other way, but it's just like I couldn't stop throwing up. And so that is another definite sign that there was something in my stomach that was causing me to have those reactions.
Yeah, your body's probably saying there's something in here. It's telling you a story. It's saying there's something in here. Get it out. Get it out.
Yes, your body will tell you like, okay, it's time to figure out how to get these things out of you. And again, too, like in other countries, people know exactly what to do. They go to the store, There's a certain type of a cleansing pill that they take. It costs about $5 to $7. That same exact pill here in the United States, that's in Mexico. The same exact pill here in the US is $900. So how many people you think are going to want to buy that?
And it buys prescription too, right?
Yes, yes, it's so ridiculous.
Just gotta go get some ivermectin.
Get some, yeah. Okay, so that's another thing. We should probably just say Ivor. Ivor is another form of a way to kill these worms, and so that's why it was so effective in treating hokey pokey victims. And I think that's all we should talk too much about that, because that's heavily censored topic here.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah. So I see a lot of people in the chat. They're sharing all their health issues, and I'm really glad that everyone is awake to this whole thing, because this is kind of like, I just felt like, okay, I have nothing left to lose. I've tried so many different types of things to try to help all these health issues, but these worms are tied into so many different health issues.
Let me ask you, how did you come across this woman and this website?
You know, she, about 3 years ago, she went viral on TikTok, and I don't normally do TikTok, but I had maybe about a year ago, I had some friends sending me some of her TikTok videos, and she was just showing pictures of these worms that were coming out of her. That's why I guess it went viral.
Ooh, wow.
And describing, you know, what's going on. It turns out in that cabin that they were building off grid in their well, they had quite a few different types of worms in there. So she was actually drinking and bathing in this stuff and everything. So it was just, hers was really layered deep as far as detoxing. So she would probably have a lot more than like the normal person would, that's not living off grid with a well that has these things in it, because they did water tests and stuff, she said, but it didn't pick up on these particular organisms. She had to send water samples to this other company called parasites.org, where if anyone's interested in checking to see if they want to get a very reliable kit and people that are not tied to the US medical system to tell them what types of worms they have. That's what she did. And then she found it exactly out of which of the 8 types of worms were in the water or in her system. You can send, like, it's basically like I guess you call it like a poop test that you send to them, and then they figure out what types you have in there. But if you do that with the American Medical Association, they're not going to tell you. I mean, even like colonoscopies and stuff, like, I'm sure doctors see all kinds of things when they're doing that, but they don't report. They're not, and that's not part of their protocol to report those to their patients, which is really sad.
And one thing I actually heard too, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but one thing I actually heard too is that could actually be present in regular water, in the city water, which is a little scary.
No, that totally makes sense. That's why water filters are like so necessity right now.
Yeah, but you got to get the right type of water filter.
Right.
Yeah.
Can it kill it, or can it take it out, even like a perky?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Kim Rogers does cover it.
Yeah, she's put some videos on that website that will describe
but
what
it's
she has.
not like your Brita filters or stuff like that's going to work.
Okay.
Yeah, and then alkaline water machines are another way to go as far as for your drinking water. I would recommend everyone look into getting an alkaline water machine, especially with the amount of corruption that's happening right now. And it's just horrible. I mean, water is such a necessity, and to have access to clean water, it's like getting kind of rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very important, and I just hope that the filters that we use can get enough of the impurities that are found in there.
Yeah. So I have been taking some Ivor every other day. I take it along with this herbal cleanse that I'm going to describe here. And so I see that in the chat some other people have tried that too. And that's what they use for animals, for deworming horses and of course, you think about it too, like we have cats. We deworm our cats regularly. You would think that because we pet our cats, our cats sit on our furniture, our clothes, they're putting eggs and worms on us that microscopic that we cannot see. And like you mentioned before, Brett, with your dogs, that's one of the number one ways that we acquire these worms, was from pets. And the way that people deal with it in other countries, of course, is to do routine cleanses, and then you can just be on your merry way. But here in Western countries where we're not taught to do these cleanses, it becomes a huge health issue.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to, like you were saying, it's like, okay, in this country, we don't, we don't have worms here. It's almost like people are used to the good life and they don't want to actually think about these negative things that could be here, even though,
Yes.
you think about, oh, that only happens in other areas. But and that's why part of the medical industry too is taking a blind eye to it, is because, again, that doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
We want important sicknesses. We want to deal with them rather than that. It's too simple, right?
Yes, yes, I totally agree. And it's, to me, now that I think about it, it is so ridiculous to think we're getting a lot of our food imported from these other countries, but
Yeah.
yet we think that we're immune to it, like, oh, they won't come across the border with that food, the worms are smart, they'll stay on their side of the border.
Yeah. That's I didn't think about that until just now, and that's too. That's very kind of scary, because, again, a lot of food that we get is from other countries, if you think about it. And I don't really think that they care too much or are too concerned about the food that they, I'm sure there's legal limits and et cetera that you can, have in there, but they're used to dealing with it, and we're not. So
Right.
if it's something that's already in there, it's like, okay, no big deal. We always deal with that.
Right. And then there's other foods too that I've been researching to just incorporate into the diet regularly, that you just, after you do the cleanse, they recommend doing this cleanse 2 to 3 times a year. Other countries do it twice a year, but then you think about, they've been doing these cleanses since they were born, basically. So their bodies are pretty, worm free for the most part. And then they do these routinely and takes care of the issue. And their children have been doing this since they're born. So it's like, it's not as much an issue in other countries. It's not as painful and difficult to get them out because they've been doing it regularly, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Please tell us more about the Parafly. Is Parafy kit? Is that
Parafy,
right?
yeah, it's Parafy. So if you go on that website and if you decide you'd like to do this cleanse, I would recommend going ahead and ordering that kit. And like I said earlier, you can get the 10% off by using our Hebrew 10 code. And it has all the information you need on that website. I did it like a deep dive on every single one of their ebooks. What I'm reading from right now, it's the initial protocol, that it's about a 9-page protocol that they give with a lot of different resources and visuals on here. They call it the to prepare, though. I was talking a little bit before. I'm not sure how much of that was being buffered before the break, but to prepare, they talk about the 3 Ps. In order to prepare for doing a cleanse, you need to be doing these 3 things regularly. And this is what I mentioned before. To poop, of course, pee, and perspire. Those are the 3 Ps to make sure that that your pathways, your channels, whatever you want to call it, are open. And then I'm going to go over the 7 pathways, the ways that toxins are released from the body, to make sure that everything's working in good working condition before you do this cleanse. Also, too, I wanted to address this before I forget in the chat about Ivor, the dosing. From what I've read about that is, for my weight, which is between 100 to 130 pound person, you would take about a pea-size amount. You could take it like twice a day. But again, don't take what I'm saying as like by the book. Make sure you do your own research, because I'm not a medical professional. I can just give out the information what I'm doing. It'll be different depending on the weight for other people. So thank you, Sundown, for mentioning that in the chat. All right, the 7 pathways. The first one, make sure your colon is clear, that you're having regular bowel movements. Your liver, something I've seen come out recently are liver flukes. They're not pretty. They're just gross. They're like these, they float on top of the water. They're brown. They're a lot of times triangular shaped. They're not something pretty to look at, but when you see a whole bunch of stuff just floating on the top, you'll know that those are liver flukes. So you need to make sure that you have proper bile flow for fat digestion and toxin removal. Then, of course, your lymphatic system, we talked about that earlier, to support your body's sewage system through movement and hydration. So in other words, get those lymph nodes moving around, do regular exercise, and take your detox baths that we talked about earlier. Your skin, that's another part of the detox bath. The largest organ in your body, right, for skin. So you want to engage in activities that promote sweating, like either sitting in a sauna or exercising. And then, of course, sit in that detox bath with your Epsom salt and baking soda and bentonite clay for about half hour to an hour. I do it like maybe a couple times a week. You could do it every other day. You could even do it every day if you're really having a lot of side effects from the cleanse. Lungs, you practice deep breathing or gentle aerobics. This is for Tammy George. Tammy's had some issues with her lungs, so these are things that to improve your health of your lungs, Tammy. And we want to get you back in good working health, sister. Okay, so practice deep
Yeah.
breathing or gentle aerobics for optimal oxygen exchange. There's also some magnesium oxide that I've been taking in order to get the oxygen right into your blood. I take magnesium oxide every other day, and that really helps to oxygenate your blood. And if that makes any sense, and it gives me more energy. It seems to keep things flowing a lot more because it's got the magnesium in there, and also relax. So it does kind of a dual thing with the energy and then able to relax easier.
There is liquid oxygen that you can get on Amazon. I don't know how well it works, but I did
Oh
have a little
wow,
bit.
you haven't
Yeah.
tried it?
I tried it, but again, I sometimes I don't stick with things because I buy so much. So I should
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of be more, I should be more loyal to what I get. But I tried it a little bit. It seems okay, but again, I didn't stick with it. So
Yeah, yeah. They have, I also remember in Vegas they had like these oxygen bars where you could
yeah,
go and they put a tube. I never tried it, but I saw other people doing it, and I don't know how like sanitary that is or how effective that is, but it's kind of interesting. It was expensive, I remember that.
one
But
thing I
yeah,
noticed that I just tried, and it is on that website that you recommended. I think it's fulvic acid
yes,
and
yes,
humic acid. It's was shallogit.
yes.
You ever try that? I just started trying that, and I noticed a very quick difference, a very good settlement in my stomach because of that. So just an FYI,
Wow.
I really kind of like it. That's just for me though,
No,
so
that's
far.
great. That's great. They actually have the fulvic acid on that website. They don't sell it for ingestion like the one you did, but they sell it for the foot soak. And Noble and I
Oh,
have done that foot soak. It's very interesting because that's a crazy way to get eggs out of your feet.
really?
You can actually see them. The fulvic acid, I don't know what the one looks like that you have, but this one, it turns the water kind of brownish black when you pour it in the foot soak water. And you can also bathe in it too, but it's this like blackish color. Your skin might get kind of dark. That's why they just do the foot soak. You do the foot soak for half an hour in this fulvic acid water, and then they tell you wait half an hour, and then all the eggs and whatever else has come out of your feet will rise to the top of the water, and then in your dark room, you take a flashlight and shine it on the surface of that water, and you can see all these little shiny round things and whitish little things that come up after you do that. It's just
Did you do that? Do you do that normally?
Noble and I have done it. I've done it twice since I've been on this cleanse. They recommend doing it maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I should probably do it again. But we've been going to the beach too and soaking in the ocean water, which is really helpful too, and a way to
Okay.
exercise along with it. But the fulvic, I would recommend if you want to get that along with that kit. I believe it's $15, and it comes in a packet, and you only need like a teaspoon every time you do it, so it lasts kind of long. Like 2 people could probably use 1 packet. They give you quite a
So
bit of it.
okay, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to hit you with a lot of questions, but I think
No, no,
they're
please
good,
do.
interesting questions for
No,
people
please.
like me to
Yeah,
understand.
no, please ask away.
Okay, so when you do this, you just soak your feet. You put it in a little pan, and then you just soak your feet, and then the feet is like an important part of your body to soak, obviously, because what you're saying is because that is where you can get a lot of toxins or a lot of worms and parasites inside your feet, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's one of the ways to eliminate toxins is through our feet. I didn't even realize that. And then it's weird because when you're soaking it, to me anyway, that got kind of tingly. And I see Noble in the chat saying that nothing came out of his feet. He had stuff coming out of his feet. He just didn't want to look.
Noble.
I shone the flashlight on the water after he did it, and I saw the same white little things, and even one kind of long carcass was in there after he did that.
Oh, Noble.
But yeah, everybody's got these though. That there's this kind of like shame thing. Like I didn't want to tell anybody that I was looking at to see what was coming out of me, but you kind of just get used to it. And I mean, now it's kind of like, okay, I want to make sure all this nasty stuff is coming out of my
Yeah.
body. It's better out than in, right?
No, I think it's great. Great that you're removing that, and Noble's removing that. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. It's okay.
Okay.
Any question?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. Okay, so There is, I see it's a Purify, and there's is there a Super Purify, or is it you just got the Purify one? Is that right? Just that kit?
Yeah, we each got a kit, and then you do that 3 times a day on an empty stomach. There's the 3 different tinctures, and I just put 15 drops of each one into a shot glass, and then I put a little bit of alkaline water. And to me, it's really mild. Like I don't mind the taste. Noble cannot stand the taste, so I have to always have a cup of juice for him to like down it with after he takes the shot.
Yeah, it's a chaser, juice and some tequila or rum.
No, not alcohol. That's another thing that worms love is alcohol. So you do not want to drink any alcohol during this entire cleanse because they will go nuts in your body and you're going to feel
Really?
horrible.
So can you drink it without having alkaline water? Can you just use maybe purified water or filtered water? Is that okay? Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can even put it right in the juice if you want to. They recommend for children, like children as young as age 3 and up can do this exact cleanse. That's how gentle this is. And so you can put it in applesauce for the kids. You could put it right in a shot of juice for yourself if you want. Just really try to stay away from like sugary drinks, especially. But like 100% juice is fine, or any kind of water. I would just not use tap water, but something that's some kind of purified water.
Add more. Okay, so you do it 3 times a day, and you do the drops as they prescribe or as they recommend. Now, can you tell us? And I'm just kind of barreling a couple questions at you because I'm really curious, but I don't want to run out of time.
Okay,
I think these are really good for me understanding anyhow. I think, okay, when you first start taking it, do you see any results or feel anything, let's say the first day?
Yes, I did. Now keep in mind, like I said before, was diagnosed, I've always had kind of a weak immune system. So if you do have a weak immune system, you're probably going to see more results than someone like Noble, who's like strong as a horse. He doesn't have a weak immune system whatsoever. I think I've only seen him maybe sick maybe 3 or 4 times through the entire 18 years that we've been together.
Wow.
So, and I've been sick almost every day up until a couple of years ago. So, that there's that difference. But for me anyway, to see results, I saw results like right away the next day. I was just...
What was some of the feelings and thoughts? And Noble, can you chime in too and kind of, because you're probably the other side of the spectrum. So any visible or any feelings that you might have had the first day or first off?
No, nothing.
He had nothing.
Okay.
He's had nothing the whole time. I'm just like, what? So for me, he's had nothing. And I'm like, what is wrong? So for me, I started having like strange kind of headaches a little bit, and not intolerable, but just like around different areas of my head, the front and the back. I mean, it just felt like something was moving around up there and it was creeping me out at the same time. And then I kind of felt a little bit lightheaded, but they call that herxing, Herx. And in order to combat that, there's the 3 tinctures that you get in the kit. They said that the middle tincture, which is called Sustain, you could take some extra drops of that has like white willow bark in there. There's some garlic, like you mentioned earlier, Brett, that garlic is really good for cleanses. And also too, to just really look at your diet. Like one of the other things they mentioned that was shocking to me because I love salads. That's one of the ways that you can acquire these worms. If you eat salads without washing your vegetables properly or soaking them for about 10 minutes in white vinegar and baking soda before using it, you're unknowingly ingesting hundreds of microscopic eggs and worms that you just have no clue. And so that made me really sad because I love salad. And another thing you do not want to ingest while you're doing the cleanse is raw fish, poke or sashimi, different kinds of sushi. You don't want to ingest that because
Salmon, even cooked food.
Oh my goodness. And if you look on the website, you'll see videos that people have done of Costco salmon. Like we've always known that farm salmon was horrible for you, so do not do that. And those really have huge amounts that you can see the live worms crawling on right at the store. But then
Actually, I have Costco salmon in my fridge right now. Is that the one that they come in it's like about $20 and it comes in
it's a vacuum pack seal.
2 vacuum packs, right? Yeah. Is that the one?
And so there's the wild sockeye salmon.
Wild one too.
Is also, it's got parasites in them too. So
and even there's videos of people even after you cook the salmon, then they look close with like a magnifying glass and you can still see them on there. It's just
because I've been eating that a lot and I used to like it, but Not anymore.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm
We
so
we
sorry.
we bought a lot of that.
We used to eat that like once a week at
Yeah.
least.
So sockeye salmon.
Yeah, we thought the wild one was good, but they all have them. And so
And
if
it's
you're gonna,
because they're not cooked. Is that right? Is that they just
No,
cut it
even
raw?
when they were cooked.
Even when they're cooked?
cooked, they get these worms are so smart. They've developed ways to live even through being frozen, through being cooked. They said if you are gonna have fish, don't do it during the cleanse unless it's cooked like really well at a super high temperature. Because some people like to have it a little bit raw and just cook it at like 200 or 250. But they said it has to be at like over 300 and make sure that it's cooked like almost like fish jerky is what I'm thinking. Because
Okay.
otherwise they're going to still be alive and then they're just going to go in your body and lay eggs and reproduce all over again.
Oh. See, you're giving me ideas. I'm thinking, okay, where could I have? Because I've been feeling kind of different lately, and I was just wondering. Now that could have been a thought because I have been eating a lot of that salmon lately, especially from Costco, and it's been like, and it's not that it's just Costco. It's just kind of the way it's been packed and the way it's probably not. They're not killing it off. I don't know how their
Right.
preparation techniques.
Right. It's just so sad because it's like foods that we really
Yeah.
like and we thought they were so healthy and
Yeah.
everything. And then to find out that they've got worms in them, like I used to, and also too, you probably don't go out to eat very often, like anymore now, right, Brett?
No, not too much.
Yeah, because we don't either. We used to go out to eat a lot. Now we've kind of limited it to just maybe once a week. But also too, if you're going to be traveling or if you go out to eat quite a bit, you definitely want to do the cleanse because restaurants don't know they're not going to be washing their vegetables like in this manner. I mean, we don't even know how they wash it. You know what I mean?
Right. In my opinion, no, especially the salads and stuff. I don't think they actually, and again, it doesn't mean sound to be mean or I don't want to be mean to people, but I just don't, I think the employees there are just going to grab the salad and throw it in. I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time to deworm anything or just to make sure it's safe for human consumption.
Right, exactly. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, did you have any other questions before I read this next list?
Do you want me to ask you these about your day-to-day feelings later, or you want me to?
Oh yeah. Oh, let me go into that. So, yeah. So had the headaches. I kind of had just like weird. It felt like butterflies in my stomach for the first 48 hours or so, just because I think that was all the pinworms like to live in your upper intestine and even in your throat. You can tell. Also, one of the ways to tell is if you look at your tongue in the mirror, and if your tongue is white or even partially white. Those are most likely pinworm eggs.
Oh,
I know
really?
it's so gross. It's so gross. But I've noticed too throughout the cleanse, my tongue is now pink. My tongue used to be totally white. It was it was nasty. But now throughout the cleanse, you can also use like cinnamon. Trying to think what is that oil company? doTERRA. They have a spray that one of my friend actually that you met at the conference, my friend Susan, she's really into the doTERRA oils. And she sent me this spray that is cinnamon and eucalyptus. It's kind of like more like a breath spray, but you can ingest it because it's like 100% natural. And I've been spraying that in my mouth a couple times a day, and that really kills off everything that's in your tongue, on your tongue too, and in your throat.
That'd be great. You have to maybe somebody put that in the chat or something. I'd like to grab that.
Yeah, it's called Thieves of all things.
Thieves?
I don't know why it's called Thieves. Yeah, it's called THIEVES. But it's a spray. I actually found it on eBay too. I ran out of the one that she gave me, and I ordered like a 3-pack of them on eBay. I think for like $20. But it's something you can carry in your bag, or you can carry it when you go to work, and that's just one way to like make sure that they're not in your mouth. Because I noticed too that like they do live in your gums, which is why that one of the symptoms of parasites is having gums that bleed really easy because they're so microscopic we can't see them. But of course, they'd want to live there, right? Because they're getting the first time that they're going to eat the food before all the rest of the worms get it in your stomach. It's just so gross.
Yeah, I mean, it's so gross to think about, but it does make total sense, and I think it's something we should all really, really think about because it's here. It's turning a blind eye doesn't mean that it's not there and inside you.
Yeah, and Sherry, thank you in the chat. She says, yes, doTERRA also has toothpaste and mouthwash. Okay, so cinnamon is something that these worms hate. I've learned to target the different foods that they hate so that you could supplement this cleanse with foods that they can't stand, so they're not going to be wanting to feed that much, like papaya, any type of fruit. They they don't really feed too much on fruit, although you have to make sure that you're, of course, washing your fruit properly and everything too. But fruit and fresh vegetables like cucumber, bell pepper, though, and especially fruit too that has really thick skin on it, they're less likely to get in there, to penetrate through the skin. So, I've actually
Avocados.
seen, yeah, avocados, zucchini. I've been doing a lot of stuff with zucchini, cauliflower crust pizza. That's something that they will not, they don't like that.
Really?
They do like, especially raw fish. That's one of the major things they love. Any other type of fish too, is something that they'll go for. Meat, they love meat. So on the diet, they recommend just having like light kind of meat. Like if you're going to eat meat, eat like chicken or turkey or I always say fish, but probably not fish. Something that's a little bit lighter and easier to digest. Just remember, I mean, I always have this picture in my mind that there's like these hundreds of these worms just sitting in my stomach waiting to see what else I'm going to eat so that they can
Yeah.
dine,
Yeah. Okay. So the second, before I let you just finish, or just the second day, any different changes?
Second day, I felt just really tired. I just remember feeling weak, and I kept telling Noble, I just have to lay down. I have to take a nap. So kind of plan for the first few days. You might feel kind of lethargic, but then by day 4, you have to look forward to it. One of those days. It might be sooner than I did, where all of a sudden everything just feels awesome. And our son Isaac is doing this too. And on day 3, I think he was like, wow, I can think straight. I don't have to feel like I'm struggling to stay awake all day. And ever since his accident, he's been having issues using the restroom and not feeling super tired after. And he said for the first time after he did this cleanse for like 2 weeks, he was able to use the restroom and not feel tired, or he had to actually go back to bed afterwards. So
Wow. So
it's really
that
helping him.
that is so interesting. So like, how about in the body? Like, let's say in the bathroom, do you see anything first day, second day?
Second day, I started seeing,
Okay.
it wasn't totally white yet, but I started seeing these gross little white things that were, yeah, in the toilet.
Oh, so then you did it for a total of what, a month?
Yeah, actually started a couple weeks early just because I wanted to hurry up and start because I was so tired of feeling nauseous. And I noticed the nausea went away within the first couple days. Like it zapped those guys, I think, that were living in my upper intestine and were like living in my stomach area, my throat, where my mouth. And Sundown wanted to ask a couple questions. She wanted to ask if my teeth and gums have improved. And yes, I don't have dental pain anymore. I had a bunch of different dental surgery a couple of years ago, and I was feeling on and off pain. I don't have any of that anymore, which is awesome. And also she asked about dairy. Yes, you got to really watch the dairy. No milk products except for kefir. That's one of the few things. You want to be doing a lot of probiotics when you do this to help your digestive system, to make sure your body can finally get nutrients. That's another thing these worms do, is that they rob your entire body of nutrients because they're eating all of your vitamins and supplements before your body has a chance to get to them. So the only way you're getting vitamins and supplements is from the worm's feces, which is just
Oh.
gross.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
like, it's almost like your second best, right?
yeah,
your own body.
exactly. Yep. And they're totally demonic entities. They're just, they're horrible. I cannot stand it. So the more you can cleanse and do this, the better. Did you have anything else you wanted to ask, Brett?
No, I want you to. Oh, no, please finish. I was just curious because I'd like to find out if people would know what they're going to expect in the next few days and how they were, they know it's working and how long to keep taking.
Yes, I'm going to read this page that's called Life During and After the Cleanse. I think this will be pretty helpful and it can maybe answer some questions. So this is to help understand the cleanse process. And it starts out with a natural response. Discomfort during a parasite cleanse is a sign your body is actively expelling parasites and their toxins. This process, though uncomfortable, indicates successful detoxification. So when someone's, maybe your natural practitioner, your chiropractor says, oh yeah, you need to drink a lot of water so that you can flush the toxins out. Guess what the toxins are? They're worms. Okay, now we know that.
Oh.
Okay, so recognizing this is the Herx, Herx, the Herxheimer effects is what happens when your body is killing these worms, and the worms, in order a last chance effort to leave some of their offspring in you, when they're dying, they're shooting out hundreds and thousands of eggs. So you want to make sure that you're zapping all of those too. And this is why you might feel some of these changes I was describing. So the first one is defense mode. As the parasites die off, they release various toxins and substances they've accumulated, triggering your body's defense mechanisms. So the symptoms to expect, you can expect a range of detox symptoms known as Herxheimer effects, which can include digestive discomfort, which is bloating. You might have a bunch of burping too. That's one of the symptoms I had, just feeling weird, like you have all this gas, and that's from the parasites dying, and it's like this horrible odor that they give off in your body, and it comes out as either gas or burping. Diarrhea, abdominal cramps. I had some of that, not too horrible, just off and on a little bit. Then musculoskeletal pain. You might have these joint and muscle aches because they do live in your joints, especially if you've had an injury. Like when I broke my ribs, I noticed that pain that I was having, it was lasting so long, like 5 months, and I was still having off and on pain on my back where the ribs had broken. But after I did this cleanse for 2 or 3 days, that pain was gone. So I think they rush to any place where you've had an injury, and they like to live in there because your blood flow is pushing it toward that section as well.
Wow.
Okay, psychological shifts. You might have some anxiety. I had a little bit of that. Depression, irritability. I definitely had some of that the first few days. Noble can attest to that.
You still got it.
Emotional fluctuations, dermatological reactions. That's another thing I noticed in the first couple days, Brett. I did have a little bit of breakout where they try to push out of your skin, and it looks like tiny pimples. Maybe mine was over, like they cause TMJ, like for the
Oh yeah.
grinding of your teeth. So right around that, my jaw joints, I have like two. They look like kind of like pimples where they've been coming out. I mean, and you can't actually see the worm, but it's like this clear, really smelly liquid is just coming out, and I know it's them because I didn't have that before. But I'm just glad they're coming out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you might have rashes, itching. So maybe your eczema might flare up for a little bit as they're trying to come out, but then I'm expecting it'll probably just go away just because they're the cause of that. Cravings, if you have an intense desire for certain foods, particularly sugar. Now for me, that's totally stopped now. Like I'm not craving all kinds of stuff like I used to be, and it felt like painful to watch Noble eat ice cream, but I can do that now and I'm fine. The general malaise, which is like fatigue, headache, insomnia. The insomnia, I think that was my worst side effect this time. And another thing to note is if you're going to start this cleanse, you want to make sure you do it around the full moon. And we just had a super moon. And so your issues and things, my issues acted up quite a bit, especially during that first full moon when I first started cleansing about a month ago. That's the most activity. That's when the parasites become more active, is around the full moon. So
you
want to
started?
I would start maybe 3 or 4 days before the next full moon, just because then you'll be able to get the maximum amount of worms out of you because they get real active and they come out of your joints and out of your muscles and everything during the full moon. And then if they get all zapped with the herbs you're taking, then you're just going to take them out, and you'll have a lot more coming out of you if you start maybe 3 or 4 days before the next one. So that's when I had the worst insomnia. I had a hard time sleeping. My muscles were going crazy. But I learned to do a few things. I had suggestions from the support group I was a part of to take quinine. Have you heard of that, Brett? Quinine?
Is it a drug, or is it a natural?
It's in tonic water. You can, if you buy tonic water, it'll say with quinine. It's QUININE. But I also found it. Yeah, it's kind of like a bark from a certain tree, and I found it in a naturopath store online. I just ordered some capsules of it, so I didn't have to keep drinking the tonic water. And I just take 2 or 3 of those, especially during the full moon when everything gets really active, and it seems to help a lot. Let me see. Okay, I'm sorry, I was just checking at something in the chat. Anyway, so let me keep going with this list here. Flu-like symptoms, you might, like the first time I did it when my pathways and channels were not open, you might have fever like I did, chills, body aches. But then you just want to make sure that you get your channels open so you can get all that junk out of you. Mucus release, in other words, you might have some sinus issues. You might also see some in your stool, your urine, and have maybe some nasal discharge. I noticed my nose was kind of running during the first week of the cleanse, so they come out everywhere is what I'm saying. And then neurological effects, you might have some they're suggesting possible hallucinations or paranoia, because these worms, they're super smart. They even have proven that they can use these types of worms for mind control. And so that's another trigger that I've noticed that when I was doing research about it, that would link them to demonic activity, definitely. Okay, so these are some things that you can do during the cleanse so you can avoid a lot of these effects. First, to expect varied responses. Individuals may experience different symptoms and intensities. Listen to your body and adjust your self-care practices. Take breaks. If it's too intense, you should take a few days off, because like I did the first time I tried this 10 years ago, I don't know what would happen if I hadn't just stopped. I was just like, okay, this if it's too horrible, just know you can stop for a few days and get your body stronger again. Your support systems, you can utilize supportive measures like hydration. You don't want to drink a ton of water during this. Get a lot of rest and do some gentle physical activity to ease your symptoms and aid the detox process. You can consult professionals, like if you know a naturopath that maybe can help guide you through this. I really find there's a ton of information online, especially that website, that rogershood.com. They have just amazing information in their free ebooks that you can download from there. I would highly recommend reading a lot of those before you start this. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me too. I mean, Noble and I have gone through this for the past month, and I experienced a lot of different things, and I found that there's different herbal things you can take to counter a lot of this. But so if you have any questions and you decide you want to do this, you're more than welcome to email us at biblicalhebrewhawaii@gmail.com. And Brett, of course, you too. Like when you start your cleanse, you always can contact us. You know that, brother.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. I appreciate that from both of you. Thank you.
Sure. And so those were some of the things to navigate. And these are some extra support strategies. I know we're running out of time here. I'm just going to go through a couple of these real quick. I'm just going to read down this list. So you can do fulvic soaks, soothing baths, get adequate rest, do some sunlight exposure, skin care, where you want to put maybe some apple cider vinegar, or like you mentioned earlier, Brett, the coconut oil is really great. The worms can't stand that. You can put that all over your skin, and you can take that orally too. Nutritional support, you want to take vitamin B supplements to help with the fatigue. And it also helped with, I had severe restless leg syndrome happening during the full moon, especially. Colon support, a lot of people do enemas, coffee enemas. I have not done that, so I don't know how those would work. Hydration, make sure you drink a lot of water. You could do sauna. You could do some physical therapy, get a massage, that'll help. And castor oil packs, I've been doing castor oil on my face, and anywhere where I have these little weird breakouts where I think they're coming out of my skin, I put castor oil. And then, like you said earlier, Brett, the dry brushing. And then you want to make sure to take that binder that is included with the kit. Don't forget to take that at night so that everything's not just floating around in your system, because this will like draw all of the toxins the worms are giving out to the binder, and then you can expel that within 24 hours.
Wow.
And yeah, and so also it just says the takeaway from all this: to embrace this cleanse as a journey to better health. While there might be challenging moments, each symptom is a sign of your body cleansing and rejuvenating itself. Remember, with the right tools and strategies, you can navigate this journey more comfortably and effectively. I think that's great advice for anyone that's thinking about doing this. I think that if you haven't done one of these cleanses before, like you, Brett, it's a great way to kind of just see what you can expect. Like with Noble, he is not having any side effects whatsoever. He's carrying on normal life. Whereas with me, it was what?
He's also not looking there at the toilet too. So
Yes.
I do. I don't see nothing.
Some people, they get really intense with that. I don't do this, but some people online use like chopsticks and paper towel and fishing stuff out of there, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not doing that. Taking pictures. So it's up to you, whatever level that you feel like you want to do. Some people, their doctors straight out told them, no, you don't have worms. And they would dig in there and they'd like literally pull these huge, like 5-foot long rope worms out and bring it to their doctor in a jar. But anyway, it looks like we're at the end of the show. Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you again, everyone, for participating. We hope that you take away from this show some great information. And shalom.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. You did a great job.
Thank you, Brett.
Shalom.
Thank you, Brett. Shalom.
See you next month.
Thank you everybody for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com. Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.